The stadium held its breath as match point arrived. 2 years of heartbreak, 2 years of sleepless nights, 2 years of replaying that devastating loss in New York. All of it boiled down to the single, fleeting moment. ALEX EALA stood at the baseline, her heart pounding like a war drum, staring across the net at the woman who once stole her Grand Slam dream. Elena-Gabriela Ruse had taken everything from her that day. But tonight, under the dazzling lights of Cincinnati, the Filipina powerhouse was writing a completely different story. This wasn't just a victory, this was a glorious, thunderous, long-awaited resurrection. The memories flooded back the moment ALEX EALA stepped onto Court 7 at the Lindner Family Tennis Center. It was as if the ghosts of the past had gathered to watch her face her demons head-on. 2 years ago, in the suffocating humidity of New York, a young and unproven Filipina had stood just 2 wins away from realizing her lifelong dream of a Grand Slam main draw. She could almost taste it. Then came Elena-Gabriela Ruse. The Romanian, ranked number 122 at the time, had ripped that precious dream away with a brutal 3-6, 6-1, 6-4 victory in the US Open qualifying rounds. EALA had fought with every ounce of her being, throwing everything she had onto the court, but it simply wasn't enough. The defeat didn't just sting. It cut deep into her very soul. It wasn't merely about missing the US Open. It was the crushing agony of being agonizingly close and watching glory slip through her trembling fingers. That devastating night, alone in her cold hotel room with tears staining her pillow, the then 19-year-old had made a silent, sacred promise to herself. I will never let this happen again. I will rebuild myself from the ashes. I will come back stronger, fiercer, and more ruthless. And one day, I will face her again, and I will absolutely demolish her. Fast forward to August 2026, and that prophesied day had finally arrived in all its dramatic glory. But everything had transformed dramatically. EALA was no longer that wide-eyed, nervous teenager ranked outside the top 150, unsure of her place on the biggest stages. She was now a fearsome world number 20, a prestigious WTA Tour title holder, a revered Wimbledon quarterfinalist, and the fearless woman who had brutally beaten Iga Swiatek, Elena Rybakina, and Jessica Pegula in succession. The underdog narrative had been completely flipped. The hunter had become the hunted. The student had become the master who now dictated the lessons. The Cincinnati crowd buzzed with electric anticipation, fully aware that they were about to witness something monumental. EALA walked onto the court with a steely gaze, her expression betraying no emotion except pure, unadulterated focus. She knew that the ghost of 2024 was about to be exorcised forever. Every practice session, every grueling fitness drill, every sleepless night of visualization had led to this precise moment. She had replayed this match in her mind 1,000 times, and in every single replay, she emerged victorious. Now it was time to turn that vivid imagination into breathtaking reality. The Filipina superstar was ready to reclaim her destiny and silence the demons that had tormented her for 2 long years. The tennis world had dubbed it the Revenge Tour, and for exceptionally good reason. Over the course of the past several electrifying months, ALEX EALA had made a spectacular habit of systematically destroying the very opponents who had once stood arrogantly in her path. She had methodically beaten Renata Zarazua, Maya Joint, Iga Swiatek, Jong Kin-win, Lila Fernandez, and Jessica Pegula, every single one of them players who had previously handed her painful defeats. Each victory was not just a win, it was a thunderous statement. Each triumph was a defiant middle finger raised high to the doubters, the critics, and the naysayers who had written her off as a fleeting flash in the pan. And now, Elena-Gabriela Ruse was next on the hit list. The Romanian had arrived in Cincinnati brimming with misplaced confidence, having brutally demolished Magdalena 6-0, 6-3 in the first round with ruthless efficiency. She was a notoriously dangerous opponent, a proven double specialist who had reached Grand Slam semifinals twice and possessed a venomous groundstroke game. But EALA was utterly undeterred. She had spent the better part of 2 years studying Ruse's game with obsessive precision, analyzing every single weakness, every predictable pattern, every subtle tell that betrayed her opponent's intentions. She knew that the Romanian's aggressive baseline game could be brutally exploited with deep, heavy shots and clever variations in pace. She knew that Ruse struggled visibly against left-handed players who could abruptly change the rhythm of rallies and disrupt her timing. Most importantly, EALA knew with absolute, unshakable certainty that she was no longer the same timid player who had crumbled under the intense pressure of New York. The crowd in Mason, Ohio was absolutely packed with passionate Filipino fans, their voices echoing through the stadium like a powerful, thunderous wave of unwavering support. They had traveled from every corner of the United States, from the vast expanse of Canada, and even directly from the Philippines itself, spending their hard-earned money just to witness this historic moment unfold. And EALA was resolutely determined not to let them down. She felt their energy coursing through her veins like an electric current, lifting her spirits higher with every deafening cheer. This was no longer just a tennis match. It was a movement, a celebration of Filipino resilience and indomitable spirit. The revenge tour was gaining unstoppable momentum, and nothing, not even the formidable Ruse, was going to derail it. EALA walked to the baseline for the warm-up, her heart filled not with fear, but with fierce, burning anticipation. She was ready to add another name to her growing list of conquered foes and continue her relentless march toward tennis immortality. The first set erupted into a gripping war of attrition, a brutal chess match played at breakneck speed. Ruse came out firing on all cylinders, her powerful, flat ground strokes forcing EALA onto the defensive from the very first point. The Romanian's vast experience in high-stakes matches showed immediately as she broke EALA's serve early, seizing a commanding 3-1 lead that sent a ripple of anxiety through the Filipino-dominated crowd. But EALA didn't panic. She had been in this exact precarious position before, against Pegula in the intense Washington final, against Swiatek on the sacred grass of Wimbledon, against Fernandez in the tense semifinals of a WTA 500. She knew exactly how to fight back from the brink of defeat. Slowly, methodically, and with surgical precision, EALA began to rediscover her devastating rhythm. Her lethal left-handed forehand, the very weapon that had dismantled some of the finest players on the planet, started to find its terrifying range. She began to dictate the points with increasing authority, pushing the exhausted Ruse side to side, ruthlessly opening up the court with sharp, biting angles that left her opponent scrambling in vain. The Filipino crowd erupted with every scorching winner, their raw energy lifting EALA to an otherworldly level. She broke back fiercely to level the set at 4-4, then held her serve with clinical dominance to take a 5-4 lead. The tension in the stadium became almost unbearable, thick enough to be cut with a knife. Every single point felt like a mini-drama unfolding in slow motion. Every prolonged rally a brutal test of physical and mental wills. Ruse, to her immense credit, refused to back down like a wounded lioness. She saved 2 set points with clutch, courageous serving that displayed her championship pedigree, forcing a nerve-shredding tiebreak. In the tiebreak, EALA's unparalleled composure shone like a brilliant beacon. She played with the serene poise of a seasoned veteran, not a 21-year-old still carving her path on the global tour. A perfectly placed, jaw-dropping backhand down the line secured her a mini-break that sent the crowd into a frenzy. Then came the coup de grace, a thunderous, untouchable forehand winner that sealed the set with breathtaking finality. EALA had taken the first set, 7-6, and the stadium absolutely exploded with unbridled joy. Tears of relief and excitement glistened in the eyes of Filipino fans who had waited 2 agonizing years for this moment of vindication. But EALA knew, deep in her champion's heart, that the job was only half finished. Ruse was a fierce, proud fighter, and she would undoubtedly come back swinging with renewed ferocity in the second set. The victory was not yet secured, and EALA mentally prepared herself for the next brutal chapter of this epic showdown. Ruse, true to her fighter's nature, came out swinging with desperate ferocity in the second set. The Romanian, ranked a respectable number 77 in the world, had absolutely nothing to lose and everything to prove against the rising Filipina superstar. She broke EALA's serve in the very first game with a series of blistering returns, then held her own serve confidently to take a commanding 2-0 lead. The momentum had shifted dramatically. EALA's shots, so laser-precise in the spectacular first set, began to lose their lethal sting. Unforced errors crept insidiously into her game, a routine forehand dumped into the net here, a backhand sent sailing long there. Ruse ruthlessly capitalized on every mistake, extending her lead to an imposing 41. The Filipino crowd, so deafeningly loud just minutes earlier, fell into a nervous, anxious silence that was almost palpable. Doubt began to creep into the minds of even the most faithful supporters. Could EALA hold on against this relentless onslaught? Would the revenge dream slip agonizingly away for a second time? But EALA had been forged in the fires of adversity. She had been here before, staring into the abyss of defeat. In Washington, she had trailed in the final and staged a miraculous comeback. At Wimbledon, she had faced multiple match points against top-tier opponents and somehow survived against all odds. She was built of tougher, more resilient stuff now. She dug deep into the deepest reserves of her physical and mental strength, finding hidden pockets of energy she didn't even know she possessed. A stunning, delicate drop shot winner that left Ruse frozen brought her back to 4-2. A roaring, unreturnable ace made it 4-3. The stirring comeback was officially on. Ruse, feeling the immense pressure mounting on her shoulders, began to visibly tighten up. Her once reliable serve, so steady in the first set, started to falter disastrously. Costly double faults crept into her game at the worst possible moments. EALA smelled blood in the water like a great white shark. She broke Ruse's fragile serve to level the set at a thrilling 4-4, then held her own serve with dominant authority to take a 5-4 lead. The crowd was back on its feet now, the noise reaching a deafening, primal crescendo. Ruse somehow managed to hold serve to make it 5-5, but the psychological damage was already done. EALA had weathered the terrifying storm and emerged stronger. She broke again to take a crucial 6-5 lead, then stepped up to serve for the most significant match of her career. The final game was a breathtaking masterpiece of controlled aggression and sheer brilliance. EALA moved the exhausted Ruse from corner to corner, her left-handed forehand carving impossible angles that defied physics. Match point arrived on a stunning cross-court winner that left Ruse completely flat-footed and helpless. The ball landed perfectly on the line, and the stadium erupted into absolute bedlam chaos. ALEX EALA had done it. As the final, decisive point landed with exquisite perfection, ALEX EALA dropped to her trembling knees right there on the hard court. The tears came instantly, streaming down her flushed cheeks in hot, unrelenting rivulets, not of sadness, but of pure, unadulterated, overwhelming relief. 2 agonizing years of soul-crushing pain, 2 years of gnawing doubt, 2 years of torturous wondering what if, all of it washed away in a single glorious moment of ultimate triumph. She had avenged her devastating loss. She had exorcised her tormenting ghost. She had kept her incredible winning run gloriously alive against all odds. The Filipino community packed into the stands was in a state of absolute, unbridled delirium. Massive flags of red, blue, yellow, and white waved furiously through the air. Voices were hoarse from shouting, throats raw from screaming, and tears of pure joy streamed down countless faces. They had witnessed something truly special, something beyond just a tennis match. They had witnessed a profound story of resilience, of remarkable growth, of a young woman who absolutely refused to let defeat define her destiny. EALA walked to the net with grace and humility to shake Ruse's hand, a gesture of deep respect between 2 fierce warriors who had just engaged in an epic battle. The Romanian, gracious in her hard-fought defeat, acknowledged that the better player had undeniably won on this extraordinary day. Then EALA turned to face the adoring crowd, her red-rimmed eyes glistening, but her smile radiating pure, uncontainable joy. She raised both arms high in glorious triumph, soaking in the adulation of an entire nation that had watched her remarkable rise from a precocious, gifted teenager to one of the very best players in the entire world. This victory was not just hers. It belonged to every single Filipino who had believed in her, supported her, and prayed for her success. With this monumental victory, EALA advanced to the prestigious round of 32, where she would face the formidable world number 10 Amanda Anisimova or the talented Zeynep Solmez. But for now, all of that future uncertainty didn't matter in the slightest. What mattered was this transcendent moment, this perfect, glorious, unforgettable moment of sweet redemption. The revenge tour would continue its relentless march. The impossible dream would go on. And ALEX EALA, The extraordinary girl from the Philippines who dared to dream bigger than anyone thought possible had just emphatically proven to the entire world that she absolutely belonged among the very best elites of the sport. Her name would be etched in tennis history, her victories celebrated across the archipelago, and her legacy as a true Filipino icon was now permanently cemented. The Cincinnati crowd gave her a standing ovation that seemed to last forever, and ALEA soaked in every second, knowing that this was only the glorious beginning of something even greater. If you enjoyed this latest tennis update and want to stay ahead of the biggest stories in the world, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe the channel right now. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of the action. See you in the next video.